You just found the #1 junior golf podcast hosted by a junior golfer. This is Distance to the Pin podcast. Today we're talking about the #1 struggle late in rounds that junior golfers have. Welcome back to the show, Mom.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
This is probably one of my favorite topics, and it ties in so nicely with what we did this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
You want to tell everyone?
We got to go to Eli's for food.
Yeah.
Then we got to go to the Quinnipiac game where we annihilated Brown 9-1.
Yep.
So
that was pretty incredible. I played at Quinnipiac. Obviously, field hockey is different than ice hockey, but I can remember before it became the new stadium that it is today, it used to be called TD Bank North. And some of my fondest memories is cross-training around the perimeter of the ice hockey rink. These would be timed sprints. And I remember people saying on my team, what does this have anything to do with field hockey, right? Why are we doing this? And at the time, our strength and conditioning coach reminded us that there's so much more to the game than just how you hold a stick. And the same is true for ice hockey players or golfers or even football players. We're also in Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Yep.
Who do you have today?
I got Seahawks.
You got Seahawks. Interesting.
New York Giants fan can't let them win.
I know. I feel like you're right. A lot of my athletes over at a local gym that I train at are Patriot fans. And I told them that if the Seahawks win, they have extra battle ropes. So they're going to be rooting hard, glued to that TV. We also have the Winter Olympics going on right now. 3 of our ice hockey players are actually there, which is even more incredible that we've destroyed Brown and Yale this weekend.
8-0 yesterday. I watched the entire game.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So this is, again, one of my favorite topics because I think it's also one of the most misunderstood. And what I mean by that is I can remember when I was first pregnant with you, there was a lot of literature that was out that talked about how women who were pregnant shouldn't train. And fast forward now 12 years, all the literature has reversed and they're talking about the importance of strength training for women. And it's now contributed to more successful childbirth and recovery for that. What I mean is the literature surrounding youth athletics is also very outdated. There's a lot of fear that if athletes that are younger, like your age, train, that they could get injured. And I think when done the right way... it is a positive thing. If you're just in a gym all by yourself at this age and you've never worked out in your life, it is dangerous. Well, if you know what you're doing and you have... this person is your mom. Yeah, it's a benefit. For sure. And I have to shout out my guys over at Mind Pump. My full-time job is their director of education, and they were the first who really challenged my mindset around strength training and who it could be appropriate for and what that training should look like. And, specifically for golf and youth athletes, I mean, golf is explosive, it's repetitive, it's asymmetrical. You're asked to do 4 to 5 hours per round of a repetitive force behind a swing. And without the proper technique and body to support that, you could end up in injury. You could end up in blow-up holes. You can end up with a higher score at the end of the day. And this is going to be eye-opening for so many youth golfers out there.
Yeah. Your body's good for a couple holes and then it strains up, gets tight, and no good.
It reminds me, did you hear that study done by Dr. Najemi? He did this meta-analysis of about 19,000 athletes, and he attributed the positive benefits of strength training to about 70% of these athletes avoiding injury. I thought that was wild.
Yeah, that's really crazy. You've always harped on me like working out, but I didn't realize that it protects me from injury like that.
I think when young athletes train the right way, they develop the ability to absorb force and decelerate and control their body under fatigue. And these stronger muscles and tendons and movement patterns are really going to allow them to avoid injury, like we have seen with some pros who are very young that we'll talk about in just a second, who've had to undergo surgery as young as early 20s because their frames now don't support the power behind their swing.
So for junior golfers, that means that you play more months out of the year, you get to train without pain, and fewer bad rounds, and makes you feel better.
Well, it certainly makes you feel better because you're able to recover faster. And, you're funny. You were nursing hamstring soreness the other day, and we immediately put the massage gun on it. And within a couple of days, you were like, whoa, I cannot believe how much better I feel, right?
Yep.
So there's obviously like a method to our madness here. But if I were to pause for a second and actually begin to reflect on who popularized strength training for golf, not even for youth athletes, I would probably say it has to be Tiger Woods.
Yep.
He realized that in order to beat his opponents, he needed to have an edge. And that edge then became, I may not be the tallest, but I am going to be the strongest, and I'm going to be able to leverage that to drive the ball further and further into rounds. And so I think taking that concept and becoming a multifaceted athlete has allowed him to excel. And I mean, he hasn't even played in years, right?
Yeah.
And he still holds how many records?
A lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah. And unfortunately, like, you were too young to really see him in his prime.
Don't worry, we still got highlights.
We do.
It's kind of crazy to think that before Tiger, strength wasn't really a thing in golf.
Yeah.
Like, I noticed while I was watching the PGA Tour that players like Will Zalatoris, Jason Day, and Rory had back issues because their swing speed got so fast, their body just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I think selfishly from a parent perspective, that's one of the main reasons why I want you strength training is I want to avoid not only injury, but surgery. You know, you guys are so young, and to have you resort to medical procedures because the game is evolving in such a way that your bodies can't keep up with it is
scary.
It is. It really is.
When we first started training, the goal was like, yeah, let me just hit it farther. But then the goal really became, let's support the swing I have. So when I play against these people, I can hit it farther, but also be able to support me swinging it faster.
It wasn't first always about distance. It became stability. And with that, we saw your balance improve. We saw sequencing improve. We looked at how you stayed grounded longer through your swing instead of kind of like leaking energy. And all of that then contributed to your distance then kind of coming as a byproduct of that.
I didn't feel like I was swinging like harder. It just felt easier.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I want these parents at home to understand is strength training doesn't change your swing. It gives your swing something to push against and to ground you. And when your legs are stronger and your core is more stable, you know how to stay grounded and the power shows up naturally. And again, to think about old mindset here for just a second, old versus new, there was this misconception that if you started strength training, you were going to get bulky and it was going to actually impede your body, the ability to swing through a full range of motion. But you've actually found through med ball training, rotational power drills, that it should help actually extend your range of motion and allow you to get more thoughtfully through it. Tell me, has there been any like particular exercises that have been helpful?
So for like the rotation, we do the Russian twists and the med ball turning, throwing it into the wall and catching it. Those are really helpful. I find that the goblet squats are explosive up during the golf swing.
How have you seen this show up on the course?
So it'll go farther. Mm-hmm. You know, the ball goes farther. You last all 18 holes instead of just like 5 to 9 holes. So you just feel better after the rounds. You know, you're not like exhausted, sore the next day. You know, you actually feel better.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stay at home and have a rest day. You can kind of like go back out and practice.
Yeah, that's huge. So recovery obviously is a big part of that. And if I can think back to your first national tournament, it was in Destin, Florida. First of all, Florida should never be 30 degrees.
Yeah, never 45 in pouring rain.
It was raining and windy and freezing, but there we were. And you were paired, do you remember, with the number one golfer in the entire world?
Yep.
The entire world. And this is when I really started to realize just how little knowledge there was about strength training, because his parents, who were very kind, were very talkative with us, which I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was terrified. I didn't know what to expect. And he's sharing that they flew their private jet to the tournament, and they flew their caddy that they were paying to walk his 18 holes with him. And I remember she's like, he had 4 coaches. He had a statistician, a putting coach, a swing coach, and a positive psychology coach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any of this for my kid. I must be failing John right now. Like, this is awful. But then after that night, when I got home and I really processed the conversations that we're having in between holes, I'm like, this kid doesn't have a strength training coach, you know? And just imagine.
And you have the definition of strength training right here.
Yeah. So for me, I was just like, wow, what a miss for a kid with that much potential. But then again, what an opportunity to help you really develop your full potential.
Like, compared to me, he was like a giant. Like, he had hit his growth spurt early. He was super tall, and I was not there yet.
Yeah, that's true.
But like, my takeaway from that experience with him was that even though he had hit his growth spurt early and everything, I thought that because I was so tiny, that because everyone was hitting it farther, that was the reason why they were getting lower scores. And as soon as I got back to Connecticut, you bet you I was in that gym.
I think really the goal there was, how can we optimize the body you have?
Right.
To optimize the swing that you have.
I also found that like doing the strength training made me feel more confident in the spring, because I wasn't hitting it. I was the biggest kid in the spring.
Yeah,
I still wasn't the biggest kid in the spring, but I still put the ball in the hole less amount of times than the entire field.
And again, we're not saying strength training is the only reason why, because obviously there's a lot of different factors that contribute to that, but it just goes to show you, it's a testament to how strength training can positively impact your outcome and level the playing field, even if there are kids that are taller than you, that are bigger than you, just by, again, knowing a couple of things about how your body works and how you can leverage that to your advantage.
Yeah.
So let's transition to what exercises youth golfers could and should be using for their own performance. And when I talk to a lot of junior golfers that I work with, the big priority is your lower body strength, your single leg stability, knee and ankle control, efficient use of the ground. I would add rotational power like we've talked about, and then full body coordination. And I just want to reemphasize, this is not bodybuilding that we're looking at. It's about transferring your force efficiently. And when we really started taking your golf seriously, you know, the first thought was, well, who can we have John work with at home in Connecticut? And there's no one. There was very few people, if at all, that did sports training, strength training for golf, and more particularly for the youth. And that's really what drove me to create Svogun Golf Performance, which is a virtual training app where golfers can access workouts that they can use to further enhance their and support technical training skills. And so it's structured around 3 to 4 lower body dominant training days per week. It's got some mobility thrown in there. Again, a lot of rotational power in there. And then what's really cool is I've started now coordinating sessions with the technical coaches that these players work with. I think about Evan and how I talk to his golf coach about, hey, what are you seeing? What are his weaknesses? And then from there, we develop a plan that's directly related to his strengths and weaknesses. How about you? Where have you been training lately?
G4.
Yeah.
Wellness.
G4 Wellness. And when did you start working there?
Last fall.
Yeah, I want to say it was like September. And you go there 2 times a week. And obviously, I'm your trainer. You're welcome. What has that been like for you to train with other athletes of different sports? So G4 is located in Middletown, Connecticut. Shout out to the Forge where they're located. And you've been working with elite soccer players, baseball players. What's it like to train with other elite athletes?
It's been awesome. Shout out to Nick and Deck. They're really great people that I got to meet. My fun workout buddies. During breaks, we'll throw the ball around and have some fun.
Yeah, I think that at this age, if you are a sports director, the most important thing is to make it fun, make it efficient. And a lot of the times I'm gamifying what they're doing. So it's a competition. So it's forcing you to go at a speed that you don't want to necessarily go at. And sometimes we're a little too competitive. But I think at the end of the day, you guys are continually getting that 1% better. Right?
Every single day.
And another thing I like to harp on with them is recovery. And one of the last conversations we had centered around your recovery should look just as intense as your training. Otherwise, we're leaving some of those gains on the table, right?
Yep.
So what are some things that you've done for recovery?
I've done the sauna before.
Yep.
I've done the massage gun. I've taken a shower.
Foam rolling.
Foam rolling. Yes, foam rolling.
Yep.
Love foam rolling.
Those are all really great options. And it reminds me of a recent Instagram clip. I believe it was last week where I was scrolling through and I saw Justin Rose and his tour van. And it's all recovery tools. So like you walk in and he has a cold plunge. And then the other side, you see a sauna. And then he's got like an infrared bed. And then obviously all the tools that we just mentioned. I mean, millions of dollars must have been spent just on recovery. And what was really cool was in his mind, I have to stay sharp. And my body has to be able to perform the way that I want it to. And so this is the commitment that I've made to allow my body to do that.
Yeah. I really think that we don't necessarily need these tools as young junior athletes, but they're really helpful to have. Just like not even the massage gun, but like the foam rollers, just to stretch, because the more you're stretched out, better you play because it's not as tight.
Well, we know your hamstrings and calves can need a little bit more stretching. Maybe that's all golfers, but yours are particularly tight. So we have to work hard on keeping those nice and loose. But I would agree. I think recovery is going to allow you to get the most out of the strength training that you have.
If you want your swing to hold up late in a round, you have to train the body behind it. If this episode changed how you think about training, my mom has agreed to give one lucky listener a complimentary fitness assessment. To win, all you have to do is leave a comment and subscribe to Distance to the Pin podcast, and we'll reach out to you next week if you're selected. Additional info about the Svogun golf performance can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. A new episode drops every Wednesday. Until then, peace!